Hello English 1102 students. Welcome to this video for the research paper. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through this handout that's in the research paper folder and try to explain what I mean by some of the stuff that's written in here. If you don't have this handout either minimized on your window or printed out in hard copy, which is probably the way I would rather you do it, then I'm going to pause for a minute. You can hit the pause button, go ahead and make a printout or open the file and minimize it, and we'll go from there. Alright, I'm back. Okay, let's just go ahead and get started. Let's dive right into this thing. I want to go ahead and start with the dates. So Friday, June the 26th. So from the day that this video is going to be posted on here, it gives you about 8 days. An annotated bibliography needs to be done. I'm going to talk about how to do the research here in a few minutes. But you're going to submit a copy in the D2L Dropbox of the annotated bibliography so that I can review it and make sure that it conforms to MLA standards. There are a lot of handouts in your folder talking about annotated bibliographies and what makes a good annotated bibliography and how to be successful with annotated bibliographies. I have also taken the time to post a sample annotated bibliography in the folder. And of course, it's not on a work you're actually reading, it's actually on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. But that handout will show you, if you read it carefully, exactly what I want in these annotated bibliographies. A correctly formatted entry, which I'm about to tell you in a few minutes how to do that. And then an annotation that says both what's in the actual work, and it's not going to be a copy-paste from the website. So if you do a copy-paste, that's plagiarism. I want to give you a 0 on the assignment, which, by the way, is 10% of this grade. And then, of course, the other portion I want is how you plan to use this source in your essay. I plan to use this to back up my point about X, whatever it is. So look at that sample annotated bibliography. Look at the annotated bibliography handouts on from the Purdue OWL and from IUPUI, and those will give you an idea of exactly what I'm looking for in these annotated bibliographies. All right. There's also an annotated bibliography section in the My Blank English book. I hope all of you have that My Blank English book. That is a crucial tool for your success in this class. Particularly with the poetry essay, you were supposed to answer those 9 questions. That tool can also be used in the research paper section of the 1102 section of that book. And it can show you how to write a very effective research paper. So if you don't have that book, you need to get it because it can help you as well. All right. Then Monday, July the 6th, which is about Friday, Saturday, Sunday, about 10 days after the annotated bibliography is due, you need to have your first draft of your research paper turned in. Now, notice that you're not required to read anything during this time. All you're required to do is actually work on the research paper. Your research paper is partially written already because it's going to be an expansion of either your prose essay or your poetry essay. I'm hoping that by Monday evening I'll have all those poetry essays graded. So that will help those of you that want to write your research paper on a poem instead of doing the research paper on a short story. It will help you to have enough time to go ahead and take my comments and use them to write a better research paper with. So even though I haven't completely graded the poetry essays, you can still do your research on your poetry, and we can take it from there. All right, so during that week, the week of July the 6th, I will be making comments on your first draft. You'll want to look for those comments. You'll want to see what I have to say because these comments will tell you how to improve your essay so that you get a better grade on the final draft. Don't take my comments lightly and don't ignore them because I will work hard at giving you the comments you need to take what might be a C essay and raise it to a B essay or possibly an A essay, whatever it is. Usually your essay can go up about 1 letter grade based on my comments, but it's possible that you may take my comments, run with them, and get a really, really good grade. So watch for that during the week of July the 6th. Notice that I do know that one of the reasons why I gave you 10 days to write this first draft is because the 4th of July weekend happens to fall during that time gap. If you don't want to work on your essay during the 4th of July weekend, then by all means get this essay turned in by the 2nd or the 3rd. That way I'll have more time to give you comments and you can enjoy your 4th of July weekend, which is what this is all about, right? So get that done. And then take a look at the time you're going to have for that final draft. Let's say it takes me until that fall. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Let's say I give you all of your comments by the 10th of July. That'll give you 2 weeks to actually make this essay better. That includes, if you want to run a draft by me after the first draft, that includes going to the Writing Center, either online or in person. You're going to have the time you need to do this, because the only other thing we're going to do this semester, other than this research paper, is we're going to read Trifles, which is a very short play, and you're going to write a little essay on it like you did for your prose and your poems. So do know that you've got plenty of time to get this research paper done if you use it wisely. If you decide to wait until the last minute, until everything's due, and then you get a poor grade, well, I can't help you. So make sure that you actually get this covered and use your time wisely. Time budgeting. Success in college often depends upon smart time management. And I'm trying to give you plenty of time, if you manage it well, to get this done. All right. Assignment overview. For this assignment, 25% of your overall grade, you will expand upon one of your first 2 essays, either the prose or the poetry, by bringing in the work of literary scholars to supplement your work. Now, take a look at what I did in bold and all caps, right there. You are not writing an essay on racism in America in the 21st century. You're not writing an essay on wealth inequality. You're not writing an essay on what is true love. You're taking an essay you've already written and you're doing research that will strengthen your argument in that essay, and that is what you're writing an essay on. And you will probably use at least half of your first essay in your research paper. You may have to delete some stuff. You may change your mind about some stuff once you've done some research. Whatever it is. But the fact is, your research paper is going to be about either the short story or the poem, just like your short story and your poem essays were. So bear that in mind. You're not going off and writing about something completely different. You're not writing a new essay from scratch. All right, by literary scholars, I mean individuals who have published in peer-reviewed academic journals or have published books from reputable academic publishers. If you get a book from our library at Darton, or if you use interlibrary loan, if you are still struggling, I can probably direct you to how to use the interlibrary loan. And using interlibrary loan could get you a book that you need from, say, the University of Georgia, Georgia State, Georgia Southwestern, Valdosta State, somewhere like that. You can probably borrow a book from another school that might fill in a gap that you can't find on the Galileo or in the books we have in the library. So that's something to bear in mind. All right. So literary scholars have published in peer-reviewed academic journals or from reputable academic publishers. And we will talk about that in a minute. All right. Here are sources you are forbidden from quoting. Do not quote Wikipedia. Do not quote SparkNotes, BookRags, Pink Monkey, Google or Yahoo Notes. Any amateur blog. If somebody is sitting in his mother's basement playing Xbox and eating Cheetos and throws something on a blog from time to time, there's a pretty good chance that that is not a reputable source. You want reputable sources, and I'm about to tell you how to find those. And especially, do not quote from a website where a person can go with a credit card and purchase a paper. These are sites like 123helpme.com, or if you take a look in here, by the way, I know what a lot of these sites are. Anti-essays? Really? eCheat? eCheat tells you everything you need to know about that website. If you quote from it, I'm going to assume you're cheating. 0. Forget about it. Thank you for playing. So, do not go to a website where a person can take a credit card and buy a paper with it and use that as any kind of source and call it research. And even worse, don't plagiarize from one of those sources, because that'll get you a 0. Remember, my penalty for plagiarism is a no tolerance 0. Thank you for playing. Have fun next semester. So, don't go to these websites and you won't be tempted to either quote from them or plagiarize from them. All right. Rule of thumb, if you can find the site with a simple Google search, then do not go there. So you may ask, what sources can you use? I am so glad you asked. There is, in your research paper folder, two really good resources. There's a handout on research papers, and there is a link to our library's page on research papers. That is the Darton Library. Carol Nemajovsky, who is the librarian at Darton, has done a pretty good job of putting this page together. Now, she has crammed a whole lot of stuff onto this page, but it's all useful stuff. And I think that this is a page you may want to go ahead and bookmark for not only this class, but your literature class, your science class, bookmark that page, because you're going to want to refer to it from time to time when you get research paper assignments. In there, she will show you how to use Galileo. Galileo is journal articles. Galileo is what we call a database, or actually, not even that. Galileo is a collection of databases. The databases that we have at Darton are things like Academic Search Complete, Nexus Lexis, the MLA Bibliography. There are numerous others. These databases basically take what are called academic journals, and they put them in electronic form, and they are available to you because you are a Darton student. You will need a password to access this. This password that I am saying you're going to need are on page 2 and on the final page of this handout. So that password is only good for the summer. Come fall, if you're enrolled at Darton, you'll get a new password. If you're not enrolled at Darton in the fall, then you won't be able to access Galileo through the Darton website. You'll have to access it through whatever school you happen to be attending. So Georgia Southwestern's password will be different from our password. Valdosta State's will be different from both of those. You get the idea. So you definitely want to use these databases. These databases save the library a lot of money and a lot of time. Because you have these databases, you have access to an immense amount of information. Probably information overload, there's so much. This is something I did not have when I was a college sophomore. So this is an advantage that you have that I didn't get, because you now have all these articles at your fingertips, and you don't even have to go to the library and get them. You can do it from home, in your bunny slippers and your pajamas, and you can access these articles, and you can look at them, you can read the abstracts, you can read the articles, and you can write your research paper without having to step foot in the library unless you really want to. So, now, if you're going to check out a book, obviously you're going to want to step in the library. That's where Gill comes in. Gill is actually like a card catalog. And I could tell you what a card catalog is. When I was a child, if I needed to find a book in the library, I went to this big cabinet and I pulled out this drawer that was like this long. And I would actually have to flip through cards until I actually found the one I needed for the book that I needed to check out. Anybody that's my age or somewhere thereabouts will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. For you younger folks who have always used computers to find books in the library, watch Big Bang Theory. There is a card catalog on the set as part of Leonard and Sheldon's living room. Alright, so those are the sources you can use. They're Galileo and Gill. Now, here's what I mean by peer-reviewed. There's actually a peer-reviewed article on Ms. Nemajovsky's page. If I write an article, if I, Mr. Smith, write an article, and I have a blog, I can just post that article on my blog, and people will read it, and nobody cares whether it's correct or not. But in order to publish in a peer-reviewed article, I would write this same article, and I would send it to, say, Victorian Studies or whatever the peer-reviewed journal is, and I would have to allow 2, sometimes 3 experts in Victorian Studies to read this article. And they would either give it a thumbs up, or they'd say, nah, this thing isn't worthy of publishing. If all of those peers sign off on this article and say, yes, this article is good enough to publish, it has basically passed a test. And that test is a test of credibility. So if you go to peer-reviewed, you will get credible sources because peers of this particular author have read it and said, yes, this is a good article. There is a button on Galileo that you can check that says peer-reviewed. Make sure, now listen to what I'm saying here, make sure you check that button that says peer-reviewed. And then right next to it or right underneath it, depending on which database you're in, there'll be another button that says full text. Check that as well. Galileo, for whatever reason, will tell you there's this great article in this journal, but you may not have access to it because you're only going to Darton. Research universities would have access to the article. But because we're a 2-year school and not a research 4-year university, then we don't have the access. Now, once you check both those boxes, every hit you get will be a credible source that you can actually read. So take the time to remember what I just said. Write it down. Check the peer-reviewed box, check the full text box, and then you will have an article that you can be proud of. And how will I know this? I'm about to show you. All right. So there's your summer Galileo password, which is cause. C-A-U-S-E, all lowercase letters. Like, fighting for a cause. Well, that cause is also your password now. So remember that. If you don't remember it, it's on page 2. And again, it's the very last thing I write on the very back page. All right. Here's the assignment. Choose one of your 2 essays. It'll probably be the one you got the higher grade on. Go to the Darton Library homepage, use either Gill or Galileo to find a minimum of 3, notice I put that in bold, minimum of 3 outside sources that can either verify or dispute the thesis which you're developing. Incorporate that research smoothly into your already existing essay to make a new and improved essay. Refer to both the literary research paper slideshow in D2L, and you can go into the My Blank English book. That's that spiral bound thing that you bought that has a little ad lib on the cover. So, go to the research paper section of the English 1102 section of the book, and it will tell you how to incorporate your sources. Your quotations should be smooth. They should flow easily with the paper. They should not look like you just jammed a quotation in there because I require quotations. And I'd say a minimum of about 1 quote per paragraph. Now you don't want your paragraph to be full of quotes. 1, maybe 2. Leave it at that number, that range, 1 to 2 quotes per paragraph, to help you with your source. And these quotes can either come from the main source, which is your poem or short story. You should already have those in your paper from the earlier paper, and then of course quotes from the actual outside sources. So look at those sections and realize that your quotes need to help your paper, not make your paper hard to read. And that's your assignment. Alright, a reminder of what a good essay consists of. A nice introductory paragraph that leads up to a thesis statement. Your thesis statement should be clear and precise. You should have good, strong topic sentences, usually the first sentence of your paragraphs, and then enough development to fully support the main point. And then, of course, a conclusion that either summarizes the main points of the essay or emphasizes an important point. Remember, for your conclusion, there needs to be a feeling of conclusion. I need to feel like I've finished your essay when I read it, not that you just stopped writing in the middle of it. So that's what a good essay consists of. All right, what do I expect? Take a look at that. That's in all caps, bold, and underlined. What do I expect from this essay? You can't tell me I didn't know I needed quotes because it's right here under my expectations. So pay close attention to this as you write your essay. I expect your research will supplement your argument, not that it will dominate it. You may have noticed as you went through your Dropbox for your prose essays, and you'll probably notice it with the poetry ones as well, that there is a percentage number on there. What that percentage number tells me is what percentage of your essay came from outside sources. In your first 2 essays, it was just your poem or your short story. But then, of course, we've got in this paper, it should also tell me, especially if you use stuff you find on Galileo or in Gill, how much of your paper came from your articles in your books. Now, that number should not be any higher than about 20%. Remember, this is your thesis. This is your essay. These are your points that you're making. This is your support. This is all about you. 20% of your essay comes from outside sources. That's about ideal. Somewhere between 15 and 20 is about ideal. Do not let your essay have about 60% from outside sources. Because even if you cite them properly, it's going to get a very, very low grade because your essay is a collection of quotes and not a thesis that you're developing. So keep that number somewhere around 15 to 20%. 25 is pushing it. I really don't even want to see it as high as 25. About 20 is good. All right. This is an analysis, not a summary. Most of you in your prose essays did a pretty good job of analyzing and not summarizing. So again, the same thing with a research paper. I don't want a summary of the story or a poem. I want an analysis. Your paper should be foregrounded in logos, not ethos or pathos. This comes from Aristotle, his 3 modes of persuasion. Your English 1101 teacher may have showed you this already. But if not, Aristotle in his book on rhetoric actually had 3 main methods which writers or authors would try to persuade readers to come around their way of thinking. Ethos is ethics. It's like, hey, look, I'm a nice guy, I'm a good person, I'm an ethical person. You can trust me, so go ahead and believe me. That is ethos. Pathos is emotion. Pathos can be effective, but sometimes it's abused, especially when people try to spread hatred or spread anger. So you don't want to use pathos. You want to use logos in your papers, particularly in my classes or really any class. What logos is logic. It's using the faculties of the brain in order to make the argument work. So for example, the most famous of the logos that I can think of is, if Socrates is a man, that's premise A, if Socrates is a man. Premise B, and all men are mortal, then you must come to a certain conclusion. And that conclusion is, therefore Socrates is mortal. So what you're doing with this logos and with this paper is you're presenting evidence to me and then saying, based upon this evidence, one must come to this conclusion. So your paper should be foreground and logos. Do not rely on ethos, which is, I'm a good person, or ethos could be, I'm an expert in this field. You're probably not. And then, of course, don't rely on pathos. But you must agree with me because you are stupid if you don't. That's pathos. That's trying to stir up anger or hatred. I do expect direct quotes from both the chosen in the story or poem and the outside sources. Do not use speculation. I don't want to see anything that says, well, maybe if this character had done X, then the results would be different. We don't have any way of knowing what would have happened if the character had done X. That's pure speculation. I want everything to be grounded in facts that can be proven from the story or from the outside research. And then use specific details. Don't be vague. This is where direct quotes can help you. So, specific details mean things like, don't use the word things, like I just did. Don't use the word things. Don't use the word stuff. Another one of the things that really irks me. Some say. Some what? You know, do you mean some scholars, some people? Do you mean some baseball players? Maybe some wiener dogs? I don't know. What are some? So, say some people or some scholars or something like that. Don't say some say. And really, that's even a little too vague. I'd like to know really who says it. And that's where your research can come in handy. So, do not be vague. Use specific details. As specific as possible. So those are my expectations. There are 5 of them. They're spelled out very clearly here. I don't know how you could be confused by these, but if you are, send me an email. Call me during my office hours, and I'll try to clear it up. All right. Then we get to the rubric. The rubric is very important because this is what I'm grading your essay based upon. Based upon some of the prose essays I read, it didn't look like everybody read the rubrics. If there was not a single direct quote in the paper, that's a sure sign to me that the student who wrote that paper did not read the rubric, because the rubric has 10 points for direct quotes. So make sure you read that rubric and follow it. All right. Annotated bibliography, 10% of the research paper grade. That is a 100 or a 0. If you do an annotated bibliography, you submit it on time, which again, if you look back at your schedule, is by the 6th. No, by the 26th. Excuse me. By Friday the 26th, which is, next week, you'll get 100 as long as it looks like you put some effort into it. If you give me a bunch of hyperlinks, that's not research. Plus, hyperlinks tell me that you went to Google, you didn't go to Galileo. So you can go ahead and get a full 100 points there. That's 10% of the research paper grade. The other 90% comes from this rubric here, which amounts to 100 points, but the weight is 90%. All right. Formatting, 6 points. You should have seen this twice already, once in the prose and once in the poetry. Use that MLA template full handout in the D2L, and you should get a perfect score on that. Thesis statement. It should be clear. What is your thesis about? I need to know that you know I need to know what you're going to write about. That's where the clear thesis statement comes in. Spoken with conviction. Do not use words like perhaps or maybe or I think. Say what you say and mean what you have to say. It should be a thesis statement, not a thesis question. This is not Jeopardy. So say what you have to say in a statement, not a thesis question. And it should usually appear at the ending of the opening paragraph. It should usually be the last sentence of the opening paragraph. That's where I'm going to look for your thesis statement. And if it's good and clear there, then you get the full 10 points as long as I know what your essay is going to be about. All right. Organization and structure. Your essay should not be a random collection of thoughts just thrown haphazardly on the page. It should be well organized. This is where your essay planning sheets that I emailed to you earlier this semester and that are in the essay planning folder and, oh, by the way, also happen to be in the research paper folder will benefit you. You have no reason to say I did not give you anything to plan your essays out on. I gave you the same 2 sheets in 3 different places. Your essay should also have a clear beginning, so I should know that you're opening up the essay, you're leading up to the thesis statement. The middle should be well organized and clear when you're making your transitions. Usually transitionary words can help you here. If you don't know what they are, look in the My Blank English book or go to a website like the Purdue Owl. And then there should be a clear conclusion. I should know when you're summing up your essay. And when I finish reading your essay, I should feel like I have finished the essay. I should not feel like you ended in the middle of it. So that's where the structure and organization grade comes in. Main points. There should be primary points. These are the major points in which you're going to use to prove your essay or prove your thesis. Look at the example I've used. My thesis might be that a specific team might win the World Series. I wish I could say the Atlanta Braves, but with our bullpen, I doubt it. But let's just say that a team called the Terminators is going to win the World Series. My 3 main points would be because they have strong hitting, strong pitching, and excellent fielding. Actually, strong pitching, clutch hitting, and excellent fielding. Those are my main points. These are the points that I'm then going to develop through my supporting details. Notice that you have to have good supporting details. When I plan this essay out, in strong pitching, I've got the starters have the lowest ERA in the league. For those of you that don't know what baseball is, or don't know some of the stats in baseball, the ERA is unusual in that the lower the number, the better the pitcher. And these pitchers, the starters, which are the people that actually pitch the first inning, have the lowest ERA of any team in the league. That's pretty good pitching. Middle relief has a lot of powerful arms. In other words, these middle relievers could take a baseball and throw it through a brick wall. Their arms are that live. And then Jim Fireball, the closer, has not blown a save all year. Again, for the benefit of those of you who don't follow baseball, the closer is the last guy to pitch, and his job is to nail the game down and make sure that the team that's winning does win. And usually the closer will only be brought into the game if the team is winning. So that is something to remember. So you put those 3 things together: good starters, powerful arms in the middle relief, and a closer that does not blow saves. You've got the details you need to develop your main point, which is strong pitching. Do this with your main points throughout your essay. Give me enough specific details in order to help develop your point, and that will help your grade here. All right. Quotations formatting. Are your quotations formatted correctly? Do you have the correct punctuation before and after them? Do you have the citations correct? If you have a comma in your citations, that's incorrect. You'll lose a point. If you're missing your citations, you'll lose a bunch of points. So your quotations need to be formatted. Are your short quotes in quotation marks? Are your block quotes set off separately and not enclosed in quotation marks unless the author put them there? If you're struggling with quotations, you either go to the Purdue Owl and take a look at that in the MLA page of Purdue Owl and look at the quotations formatting, or go into your My Blank English book and take a look at what it has to say about quotations. Then the use of quotations. Again, I've already discussed this. I'll just go ahead and remind you. Your quotations should blend in with your essay. They should help your essay. If it looks like you just stuck a bunch of quotations in there randomly because I asked for them, you'll lose points there. Your quotations need to be a tool to help your cause of developing your essay well. If not, low score. Works cited page. All right, this is where I talk about the cite tool in Galileo. You should get all 10 points in the works cited page here. There is a handout, I think it's the final handout in our research paper folder, that says using the cite tool and creating a hanging indent. Open that handout, read that handout, use that handout when you do your annotated bibliography, and again when you do it in the works cited. Now in the annotated bibliography, if your citations are incorrect, I will tell you how to fix them in the annotated bibliography. Then you can make the fixes and you can transfer all that information right into the works cited page. The cite tool makes citing your sources in Galileo so easy that I don't know why anybody, once you learn how to use the cite tool, would ever use Galileo. I've seen students do it, and I just shake my head and say, really? You had a chance to actually have your citations copy and paste and be done with it? Because that's what the cite tool is. You copy and paste it. You're allowed to do that because that's not plagiarism. Your citations should look exactly like citation in your neighbor's papers or in a professional's papers or whatever. Citations are supposed to be exact. So use that cite tool, create that hanging indent, use that handout. Then when the time comes, you can take those entries and put them in the works cited page, and you should get a perfect 10 out of 10 on the works cited page. End of story. Easy peasy. All right. So that's 10 points. And then the final 24 points, again, is surface errors. Take a look at what these surface errors are. Take a moment to read those, learn them, make sure you don't make those errors, especially the you errors. Now, it's perfectly okay if the author that you're quoting uses the word you to use the word you in that quote. Because you didn't write you, the author that you're actually quoting from wrote the word you. That's fine. But you, the author, are not allowed to write you in your papers. That is absolutely bad form, and it can be offensive at times, and you should not do it. So that's the rubric there. Those surface errors, look at what they are. You know, the agreement errors, the comma errors, the punctuation errors, the you errors, and you know, any other errors I've got down there. So that is surface errors. So that's it. That's my video on the research paper. I hope that this video might have cleared up some of what's actually in that handout. Again, if you still have questions, email me or actually call me in my office, or come visit my office if you happen to be in Albany and happen to be on campus and not working. So we can go ahead and discuss what it is you're struggling with in the research paper. So that's all I have, and I look forward to reading these annotated bibliographies and seeing how well you do your research, and happy writing.